shown on their website. You're gonna have to tell me what. I can read this.
Like Louis.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, Don.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself and just listen.
Okay.
Mute.
I like hearing, but I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about yourself? Well. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone and call to order the study meeting of West Valley City Council. It is December 12th, 2023. And we are beginning the meeting at 4:30 PM in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have all members present, excluding Councilman Fitzsimmons. On Zoom, we have Councilman Christensen. At the table, we have Councilman Nordfeld, Councilman Whetstone, Councilman Harmon, Councilman Hune, myself. We're joined with John Flores, our Human Resource Director, and Nicole Kamick, our City Recorder. We'll move to the minutes of November 28th, 2023. Turn it to the council for discussion or a motion.
Approve the minutes of November 28th. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Those pass. Tonight, we will have no city council or regular council meeting. It's been canceled due to no action items, nothing to do. We'll start with our public hearings and turn the time over to Mr. Flores. Do you want to introduce it or?
I'll actually have Jim come up.
You bet.
Jim Welch, Finance Director. This is the presentment of the second budget opening for the city of this year that's in the process of being brought before you to recognize additional monies that have come in or projects that have come up in the regular course of doing business. It also recognizes any rollovers for grant funds or projects that were not currently been expended. I'll point out a couple of things, and then there were some questions that council had that I'd be happy to answer those, and so I'll read those at the mayor's request, if that's okay.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. Couple of things. We have some rollovers. First ones were the most significant ones were the CDBG rollovers at the first. We had then some other things. The larger projects, I'll point those out, and if you had any other questions, please let me know. We had $1 million that was appropriated from the capital improvement projects fund balance for road improvements at 40th West. We had a street sign replacement project from CIP also for $500,000. Let's see, we had MSD reimbursement, which was for a municipal service district reimbursement for 4700 South improvements. That money is coming from the state of Utah. These projects have come to the council, so they shouldn't be too much of a surprise for you. The next one on the next page is the Pierce Saber pumper truck. You'll remember the fire department mentioned that that was an opportunity that we could get a truck without having to wait multiple years to get one built. And that's why this one's on your agenda and to authorize that purchase that has been made. Let's see, we had an appropriation from the state of Utah to cover police and fire services to mitigate the effects of the winter shelter, that temporary winter shelter that's been opened up. There's a possibility that we may receive additional funding. If that money comes in, then there will be another budget opening, either in the next one or the one before the year ends. So they don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. This is the preliminary estimate. And those are the budget openings from the general fund for this year. The questions that were brought about were, I'll read those to you. Number one, under other revenue, the line for appropriation from fund balance, the difference from September to now is $776,000, but the notes only add up to $748,000. Is there another note for that line item? In the notes, there was a note item number 11 that is in your budget openings that was not tagged on the line item. The difference there was $28,000, and that makes up the difference. So it was a matter of not putting the 11 next to the note. The second one is under Community and Economic Development Administration. I couldn't get the notes to add up to the difference between September and now. The notes were items number 20 and number 22. Number 20 is $342,276. Number 22 was for $5,589. Those do add up for the difference. So that explains that number. The third one, can you remind me why we had an appropriation from fund balance for the street lighting expenditure? This expenditure for the street lighting projects is from street lighting funds, which are dedicated for the use of street lighting projects. They're not considered general funds. There are different fund balances within each of the different operations. And the street lighting funds are specifically set aside for street lighting projects. This project was not originally included in the budget when it was adopted back in August. And therefore, because this project needed to be funded, it's on this budget opening. That I'd be happy to answer anything else.
Okay, did that take care of the questions that everyone had? So for mine on the bikes for the burn camp. So is that what they collected?
That's correct.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they did really well. It's a big event for them, and a lot of kids have an impact from that one.
Awesome. And then we just write out a check to the burn camp for that?
Mhm.
Okay. Perfect. That was my only question. 'Cause I bought my one bike for like $50, so you got to sell a lot of bikes to make that up.
Yeah,
All I'm
they
saying.
do a lot, and it's a really good project.
Okay. Did Don have anything? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to our consent agenda. Did anybody have any questions on that Mr. Flores can answer? If you have any you wanted to explain?
Yeah.
Come on. All right,
I have a quick
Oh, yeah.
question on that.
Yeah.
So on the reappointment to housing authority. Oh, that's part of that's not like a chair.
Nope.
Maybe that's what I got.
no, we'll do all the chairs the first Tuesday. Yeah, and elect all them. And the schedule was in that email somewhere. Because I did see that
It'll be on the agendas as well,
as well. Okay,
when they're published for the second.
okay. Okay, seeing nothing else, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for our puzzle update.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Sam Johnson, Director of Communications. This Friday night, I was home late on Friday night with my wife, putting together a puzzle that I did not enjoy. It reminded me, my life is definitely different from when I was younger, and I'm doing a puzzle on a Friday night. And it got me excited about doing a puzzle that I think many people will enjoy, and that's the West Valley City Dowdle Art Puzzle. that I wanted to pass along to you today, kind of the update. So I've had a chance to talk to the artist, Eric Dowdle, several times. He has driven through West Valley City several times over the past month to get some ideas. We talked last week, and I'm meeting with him again tomorrow. Over the past month, 2 months, I've had a chance to talk to different residents. I've had a chance to talk to Councilmember Christensen as well, as I put together a list of ideas for Mr. Dowdle to consider as he's doing the art that we would present to him. So I wanted to pass it along to you of these different places and locations and have you think about it. And please give me a call, send me a text, send me an email with any additional thoughts on these locations and different aspects of the puzzle. So if you're not familiar, I think most of you are probably familiar with the puzzle and over the discussions. The idea on this one, it's not a geographic map of West Valley City. So we might have places that are going to be all over the board. The back of the puzzle is kind of where we're looking to do the information of what people are seeing in the puzzle. So if there's a location in West Valley City, we want to be able to talk about it on the back of the puzzle so people get to know the city real well and they see a fun rendition of the different locations in West Valley City. Yes, Mayor.
On the actual puzzle or on the box?
It would be on the box. I'm sorry, on the box. So the puzzle will just be the normal puzzle. On the back of the box, the idea is each location would be listed out with the description of it. So I wanted to I have 2 different pages with different ideas. This is facilities and buildings that have been passed along to me that are of interest to be included in the puzzle. So if you look at it, we would have, and these would be how he wants to design them so that it makes sense overall in the puzzle, but something having to do with Fairborn Park and City Hall, Centennial Park, just because of the size of it and the value it has to our community. The Latino Mall, it goes by Rancho Mall and Latino Mall. That Latino Mall, that's the old City Hall on Redwood Road. That would be included. Maverick Center and USANA, Hunter and Granger High Schools because of the value once again to the community, and Valley Fair Mall because I think everybody in the Valley recognizes Valley Fair Mall. Those are some of the basics, but then we get to other things that are unique about West Valley City and also have kind of a historical relevance to the city. I'm not sure how he would incorporate it, but I know people are very proud of Hunter, Granger, and Redwood communities. I don't know how he would envision it and how he would lay it out. The water tower, Olmec Head, Chinese Gate, and the Pioneer Crossing Bridge, the Redwood Drive-In. I learned about the old Granger Park rocket slide. I am not sure if
You never slid down.
I never slid down it. I did not get any injuries going down that. But I was able to read, they had a couple of articles, and one of the articles I read that it was beloved, and that was really a gathering spot there. So I thought that would be fun to include that. The roller skating rink on Redwood. I'm not familiar with that one either. I think Dawn is the one that brought that one up to me, and then I've had several other people confirm that that was a fun location. And then 2 other ones that I think TraxLine does have a value in this community. I think it's recognized and it's bringing people to the city that may not have come in the past. It's also providing a way for people to get around. And so I don't know how that would be incorporated. The last one is an old school one. It's the canal system. It's somehow he could lay out, that was a vital part of the farming community and everything that happened in West Valley City 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and even to some extent today. So that was included. So between that and that, it's a lot of different locations that Eric would go and see and figure out how he'd want to encapsulate that and show it on a puzzle form. But, and then, yeah, so I'm still getting some other thoughts from people, but I want you to take this list, and if I'm missing anything or any other ideas that you have, please let me know. And like I said, I'm available by text, email, phone call, however you want to do it. But I want to make sure we're doing a service, obviously, as we all are, to our community and show all the great things that make West Valley City what it is. Any questions or any thoughts? Sorry, Mayor.
Anything from the council? I have like 26. So there is a picture. It used to be at Granger Hunter. I don't know where it's at now. That showed the old rel that came from Magna. Stopped here by Fairborn. It went down 3650 and then into Salt Lake. If we can find some kind of a photo of that to have him incorporate.
Was that what, do you know what it was called specifically? Do you remember?
What the train line was called?
Yeah, what that,
Not, I
Okay.
can probably figure it out.
old rail from Magna to,
Salt Lake, but it went down 3650 here by the city center.
oh, okay. Okay. So I will look into that.
Yeah, it was in the lobby here for a bit. It's been in the lobby of Granger Hunter when it was on 3500 South,
Okay.
in that one temporary building they had.
And there might be other discussions about it online. So I'll look into that and see what I can
Okay.
find. I like that idea.
And then will you email us this?
We can
And
send
we
that
can
to you.
Remember it to
Great.
add to or whatever?
Yes, definitely. We can do that. I'm not sure what Eric's wants and needs are going to be. He may want to reach out. Oh, and I was a question that you had, Mayor. He does have, we have given him through the contract artistic license for the final say. With that said, when we talked, he said, if you guys tell me to put something in, I'm putting it in unless it's offensive. And I'm like, no promises, Eric. No, I didn't say that. Yeah, we would make sure that it's all, he wants to do right by West Valley City. So he is open to all suggestions and he's already spent time here in our community and he's looking to spend a lot more time over the next month or two as he's putting something together. The time frame we're probably looking, they like to do kind of some kind of kickoff celebration and it's not solidified as we're going through the dates, but West Fest might be a real possibility that it would be available initially at West Fest.
Okay.
So I'd like to get at one of that. If it's not going to be West Fest, then something at National Night Out, something this summer that it can be kind of a kickoff that people can start getting the puzzles for themselves.
Okay. Okay, seeing nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll go to Mr. Pastrick for our general plan update.
Mayor,
Yes,
sorry, I can't see very well with that surgery today. But I think we need a deadline to get information and ideas back to Sam so that we're not holding things up.
okay.
I think we would,
Will you just send that in your email?
yeah, probably with the meeting, but I'll send that.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So wanted to provide the council an update on our efforts to update the city's general plan. So just a quick refresher particularly for some of our newer council members. So the general plan is a guide for future development in the city. It's different from zoning in that it's not binding like zoning is. And as a reminder, the last time we updated the city general plan in terms of a comprehensive update was in 2015, so it is getting a bit dated. And we've been working on an update just as time permits with other things going on. So, we, just as a reminder, we did receive a grant from Wasatch Front Regional Council to help with part of the update. And we use that grant to retain a consulting firm to help us with three things. Okay, so we looked at 5 areas of the city, and I'll identify those 5 here shortly, where we looked at what's the development or redevelopment potential within each of those 5 areas. Then once we identified, how likely development or redevelopment was to occur, we looked at a couple of redevelopment scenarios for those locations. And then finally, we looked at the revenue that would be generated to the city from those options, okay? And just to point out, when we were looking at the development or redevelopment potential, there's a lot of work that went into that. So working with a consultant, we looked at land value, we looked at how much of the property was being utilized. So for example, you may have a property that's considered developed, but there's not much on it. We looked at what it's being used for currently, the size of the property, who owns it. So there's quite a bit that went into that. And then in terms of looking at alternatives, the consultant looked at just what's sort of happening in the market right now, what trends are in the market, as well as talking with landowners, developers, real estate brokers, just trying to get a sense of what possibilities there would be. So with that, these are the 5 areas we looked at. So we looked, the first one being the south portion of Redwood Road, and then the north portion of Redwood Road. And you'll, of course, know that those areas are pretty different. As you move north on Redwood, there's quite a bit of industrial, and the south portion's more residential and commercial. Then we have most of 35th South, so pretty much the area east of Mountain View Corridor, which is where you have most of the commercial uses along 35th. You have the area to the southwest, which is between 5400 South down to essentially our southern border. And then finally, the last area is the mall. So there's a lot to take in on this next slide, so I'll do my best to describe. So first of all, you'll notice that, so the area we're looking at is along Redwood Road between 35th South and 4100 South. And you'll see that different areas have these either a green or a kind of a yellowish orange outline around them. So to explain that, the areas in green were seen as being a shorter term likely to be developed or redeveloped. So for example, the Redwood Drive-In being one of those. And again, when you look at just what's on the property now and the value compared to, say, another property has more, that was part of the thought process as to why that would be a shorter term possibility. And then the ones in the yellowish orange color, in terms of the outline, would be ones that are longer term, so 5 to 10 years in terms of likelihood for redevelopment. So again, green being within the next 5 years, the orange being 5 to 10 years. And then anything else that doesn't have an outline, or areas where, just given what's on the property, it's very unlikely we would see redevelopment just because of how much value there is already. For example, a large apartment complex is unlikely that would be redeveloped. Then within each of those areas, you see these pie charts, okay? And those pie charts represent the mix of uses under option A on the left and then option B on the right. And there's a little legend down at the bottom there that describes the different uses. So just to give an example, if you look at the Redwood Drive-In under option A, that shows a portion being smaller lot, single family, townhomes, and then another portion of commercial, whereas the option B is a more dense option than that, okay? So generally speaking, as we look at these two options, the trend is option A tends to be less housing, and where there is housing, it's lower density housing than option B, and there's more retail and more industrial, again, depending on the location. Whereas option B tends to have more housing, where there is housing, it tends to be density, and there's less retail and less industrial. So that's kind of the general difference between option A and B as we look at these different areas of the city. And again, in the interest of time, I won't go through each of these properties, but you can see the different areas that were identified. And it's interesting. We actually, as I look at these areas, I've actually had conversations with some of these area property owners about redevelopment possibilities. So I think the consultant was on the mark there. So again, moving north along Redwood, same kind of concept. Again, this is very small, so I apologize. But looking at, again, option A being the more commercial focused and a little bit of industrial, whereas the option being more focused on housing. In 35th South, there's this 2 slides here. So this is focusing from the west end moving to the east. And then the next slide here going all the way to the eastern boundary of the city. Now, this one, I think, warrants definitely some, a little bit more discussion. So this is one of the largest undeveloped or untapped areas in the city. Now, granted, some of this area you have gravel operations on, but we know eventually those will phase out and we'll see development on. So again, just to orient you here, you have Mountain View Corridor here along the east side, SR 111 on the west. Then on the north, you've got 5400 South with Hexel there on the north side of the street. And then the south boundary is roughly 6600 South, which is the south boundary of the city. So under option A, it's looking at that area being exclusively industrial, okay? And the thought process there is that you do have Hexel and of course Northrop Grumman now on the north side of 5400 South. You got the freeway interchanges there, and with Mountain View and SR 111, those kind of provide significant buffers, if you will, and kind of wedge those in or bookends to that area. And you do have at least a portion of that area is within the overpressure zones, and so that was another consideration. So not just the existing industrial, but the overpressure zones. Then the image on the right, which again has more housing, there's about a half mile worth of industrial. So that's this area here. So the half mile south of Hexel will be industrial, and then transitioning to mostly single family residential in the area to the south. So pretty significant difference between the two of those. Then moving to the mall, this one's not as involved, but you have the one on the left is mostly kind of repositioning this older center in the southwest corner where you've got the Zurchers and a few other existing tenants, and then kind of some infill, mostly commercial in option A, whereas there's more housing in option B. So again, I know there's a lot to digest here, but these next couple of slides really, I think, help to bring this all together. So if you look at the 5 areas, what this does is provides a summary of if everything shown in those options were to be built, what will we be looking at in terms of number of housing units, square footage of retail, industrial, that sort of thing. So to summarize, option A, you have about 1,700 housing units, which again would be a mix of single family, townhomes, multifamily, about 900,000 square feet of retail, and about 12.7 million square feet of industrial, which is a lot. And then option B, again, being much heavier on housing, would be about 5,600 housing units, about 470,000 square feet of retail, and 6.3 million square feet of industrial. So again, just helps you to hopefully bring that all together to see what those options would look like. And then this next slide then looks at, okay, what would be the revenue impact to the city in terms of property and sales tax from the 2 different options? And so, again, this assumes that all of that development is built and completed and is on the tax rolls, okay, which obviously would be many, many years down the road. But the first option, option A, which has, again, more commercial and industrial, is about 11.6 million. This would be on an annual basis, okay? And then the option B, 10.6. Now, a caveat to that is that option in the consultant's view, and I think as staff, we would agree, option A would likely take longer to happen because just in terms of the building and having time for the industrial and retail space to be absorbed, that would take longer than the housing to be built, just because there tends to continue to be a pretty strong demand for housing. So again, this, all other things being equal, this looks at just revenue, but not so much the timing of when that would occur. So again, lots of information to take in. This really today for us was more just to update the council on efforts that have been done. And, but also to make you aware that as we work on the city's future land use map, so we have a map that's part of the general plan that shows what uses we would like to see where over the next 20 years. This information is really informing that map. And so the question I have for the council, and this, I know, again, there's a lot to take in, but as you look at these two options, do you have a general preference of an option A or an option B? And I realize that we may need to have more conversations about that to make that kind of a determination. But again, we're hoping to eventually bring to you a map that you would formally adopt. And this is the kind of information we'll be using to prepare that map. So, or maybe even just comments or more questions you might have about this so far.
To the council? Lars?
Is there any way that you can calculate how many jobs might be created by the two different options?
Absolutely. So we can provide an estimate. So the consultant didn't do that, but there are some rules of thumb for, if you have, X square feet of industrial, you could plan on so many employees per square foot. So again, it'll be an estimate, but that's something we could come up with. But I would say for sure that, again, option A, since that's the one that does have more retail and industrial, would definitely have more employees.
In either option, would affordability be addressed? So in either A or B, would targeted AMIs to the new housing? About
So in this particular analysis, we didn't look at the affordability angle. It was more looking at what typical values are when we were looking at revenue, right? So when we looked at property tax, we looked at, okay, what's the typical new house appraising for, and what's the typical townhome appraising for? But in the general plan, we would be looking at housing affordability. In fact, we do have our moderate income housing plan that's actually part of the general plan that's required. So that is something we do look at as a city. Just in this particular analysis, it was more just looking at just land uses more generally, right? Industrial versus housing versus retail.
I lean towards option A, except for maybe in area 2. Or maybe, I don't know. Option A is probably, I'd have to dig more into it. That's just my first pick.
And so maybe a follow-up question to that would be, as we come to the council with an updated map, again, because there is, we have a large city, there's a lot to consider. When we do that, would you prefer to have just really highlight what changes we're suggesting over what's in the plan currently, or maybe do it kind of in chunks? We look at maybe, one area of the city 1 week, and then we come back and look at another area. Again, we're not to that point yet, but we will eventually be to a point where we need to have a new map. And some of it really, frankly, is just reflecting changes that have happened since we made the last update. But there are other areas, just given changing conditions, we think makes sense to actually make a change.
Myself, I'd rather attack each area by themselves. Maybe today's just a bad day, but maybe a bigger map, like
Sure.
one of these of each, so you can mark them up and really, because this side by side, I can't look at them both at the same time. But that would just be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, the explanation of everything that's going on is very helpful. When I looked at it, just studying it, it was gibberish. So thank you for the explanation. Are we going to do an overall general plan as well, looking at all undeveloped property, or are we just focusing on these areas this time?
Great question. So the focus was in these areas because we felt like those are the areas where there's the most well, aside from just vacant property, these areas that are most likely to see change along these major commercial corridors. But the map, the general plan map for the city will be kind of taking a fresh look at everything. Now, of course, there are many established neighborhoods where we're not proposing any change. And so those are pretty easy. We're just saying, hey, those will stay neighborhoods and there's no change. So we're really focusing on those areas where we anticipate there could be change, like these 5 areas.
Okay. Yeah, because I know in the past when we did the general plan update, we would have neighborhood meetings, kind of let them know what was going on, vacant land, have an opinion. Are we going to be doing that this time? Mainly just internal?
We can, and that's something we originally had not anticipated doing, like individual neighborhood meetings. There is, of course, a public process we would go through to adopt a new general plan. But if that's something the council wants us to do, more of that type of outreach, that's something we can do.
I like the idea of taking one area at a time. When we do that, it'd be nice if we had street view pictures of the green areas that we think could be redeveloped in the next 5 years, and kind of try to imagine what could be there 5 years from now.
Within your pie chart, are these the only options, or can we consider open space? We're talking about development, but open space is good too.
Sure. No, absolutely. And to be clear, certainly there are other options that could be considered. These are just as the consultant talked with, again, the development community and looked at market trends, what they felt like would be sort of possible redevelopment scenarios, but there are certainly other things that could be considered. So it's not that we have to, it's either A or B. There could be a C, or maybe in one area you prefer A, but another area you prefer a B. There's many options.
Okay. Yeah, another one for me is from the very north to the very south of 56. I know there's not a lot of open there, but just filling that in as to what, and there's some really old stuff that may want to be redeveloped.
Especially like 201 to 31.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have that. So what we're looking at in terms of slides are just excerpts from the report the consultant provided, so we can provide the council with the full report as well.
Okay, that would be helpful. Okay, anything else?
I think it's very good information to look at it over the holidays, Christmas and New Year. And I think next year we can Diane, Greg Harrell, or this one, I think I have some things I want to say too. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a very good plan. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't see anything from Don, did you? Okay. Okay, the city manager hiring process, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Flores.
Yes, just a quick update. As you know, the position closed last Thursday. And I spoke with Scott from Affion, and they have 9 qualified candidates that they are going to start scheduling for interviews within Affion next week. So they will start that process next week. Their original timeline on that is 30 to 45 days, where they will go through their own process of interviews and then provide us a list of final candidates. So that's where we're at right now.
Do you know about how many people applied?
I don't. I tried to get with him yesterday or today. He was in interviews all day, and so I'm sure at some point I'll get kind of a more full update. But he said he at least let me know we've got 9 people we're scheduling interviews for.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Any questions of John on that one? Okay. The council calendar, did anyone have any concerns? Or announcements or? Everything looks good? Okay. Potential future agenda items?
Have within city HR questions, employees that are not trying to say this. So within military, we have programs set up where you come up with an idea to create an efficiency or a cost saving measure, you can receive a bonus based on the outcome of that idea. That's what it's called. It's called the IDEA program. We had something similar where if somebody came up with an idea to, I'm thinking of the software where we tagged on to the state, we saved a bunch of money there. I mean, that would just be an example of someone came up with an idea, saved the city some money, and created a process efficiency.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We have those conversations and welcome those ideas. We do not have a program in place where we incentivize them. If there's any kind of receiving money and savings or anything like that. We do not have anything like that.
Consider implementing.
I wouldn't mind, we'll save for that next year.
So what is the bonus or incentive based on?
Yeah, it's all a formula, and I don't know all the details, but it's save in this case, the federal government X amount of dollars, and it's not like you get a percentage of that, but there's a formula and how realistic is the program. Is it to implement, and then in some cases they get some nice bonuses if it's on this program or
And do they get the bonus only if it works, or for coming up to it, they get? Because otherwise everybody be throwing in ideas.
No, it has to be implemented.
Has to be implemented.
It's actually
Okay. Okay. So is there a consensus to look into it? And I don't have a problem with looking into it. That be an HR thing that they come up with?
Definitely would.
Okay. Maybe we'll give him a few months. Okay.
Yeah, no rush.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a couple of things, Mayor. The first thing is I prefer to have the ceremony this side inside this room. The public hearing room, so we can have the lobby for people to mingle and they have food, drink, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But here we can have an eat like we did a couple of times in the past. The second thing is I would love you to look into the form of government again. Now I have time. Take a break for a few months and now I have time. See how many signatures we need in order to change the form of government. Okay, I can walk. At the time, the limit, how long can I be for doing that before they give permission, maybe 2 years or whatever for the next election or something, you know what I'm saying? So I want you to look into that one for me. I appreciate it very much. And then you can report back to us sometime early next year. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I do have one.
Okay.
It's Janice Fisher currently serves on the Magna Mosquito Abatement District and her term is up. She has expressed interest in being reappointed to that board. I just wanted to make sure that the council was okay with that. If so, I could get that on an agenda.
Okay. I know she's been attending via Zoom. So that's all I know. Does anybody have an opinion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I as being reelected at this point, I also need to be reappointed to the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District. So we might want to put that on an agenda for both of us.
Okay,
I think if Janice is willing, we should keep her working there.
okay. Anybody else?
Is it typically in-person meeting, or do they usually Zoom or?
Honestly, I think they have both options available. And Dawn could probably tell you better than I could if it's really necessary to be in person or if Zoom works just fine.
South Salt Lake does not six. There is a certain number of in-person ones, and then the rest are online. And I'd have to check. Last night we adopted that as schedule. I'd have to look at it. I've had a few other things going on today.
So can you answer if you have an in-person, is it also available in Zoom?
Yes. Yes, everything is available in Zoom, and there are some, like last night, we had the in-person one because it was our budget adoption. And so we needed to have a little more. There's also public comment, everyone, even with Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So are we good just to leave her on? Don't see a big concern, so, okay, let's do that. Any more?
No, that was it. Thank you.
All right. So council reports.
I attended the winter concert last night with the Beehive Statesman. That was
Oh, yeah.
really good.
Good. I went to Hunter High's play last week. It was for their, I don't know what they call it, but they're physically and mentally disabled children. And they have a companion that's with them on stage. And it was so good, Finding Nemo Jr. And someone told me it's the only production in the United States that incorporates those kids in with the play. So I thought that was really special. If I'd known ahead of time, we would have had the journal out there and do an article, but. Okay,
I went a couple of places, won a concert at the APA.
okay,
It turned out pretty good one. And then my hometown right here at the City Hall, so it's a good one too, so. Great.
awesome. Okay. Seeing no others,
Mayor, sorry, I'm late to the game here and I missed most of this. Had a EpiPen situation here, but was it brought up? I know you had sent out, Mayor, an email. I'm trying to find it, of someone who was requesting memorabilia or some kind of memento from the 2002 Olympics to be acquired by the city. Was that something that you folks already brought up or felt should be discussed at all?
so we didn't bring it up in this meeting, but staff did let me know that they have assigned it to Andrew, is it? Somebody over at the Maverick Center. What's his
Okay.
name? Andy? Andy.
And that's cool. Yeah.
So it's been assigned and they're working on it.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I'm not a strong proponent or opponent. I just thought if it was something feasible, wouldn't be a bad idea, but great. Thank you for the update.
Thank you for bringing that up.
We need to discuss the animal shelter issue.
I think we will need to, I need to forward it on to Angel and then give staff some time. But I think we do need to address, I got an email today that I forwarded to the council. Anyway, but I didn't get it forwarded to staff yet. about the disrepair of the animal shelter. Someone went through it and was not pleased. So I think we need to give staff an opportunity to address that and then have them maybe report back that first week of January. Okay. We'll now go on to our review of our agendas for the Annual Redevelopment Agency, Housing Authority, and Municipal Building Authority meetings. And I'll turn the time over to Mr. Flores and Mr. Welch. They're all budgets.
So all three agendas have the election of the new chair and or vice chairs for 2024. And then the RDA has one small budget opening that Jim can come up and talk on.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Jim Welch, Finance Director for the city. As he mentioned, there's one small budget opening for the redevelopment agency, and this has to do with a development agreement for a company called Full Service Storage. They needed to put in a street light, and they actually had that in the budget of the RDA. However, because this was moved to the street lighting fund to put that street light in, we do need to bring it forward as a budget opening. So that pretty much explains it.
Okay, any questions on that one? Okay, thank you. Okay, do we need a closed session for personal competency?
Yes, I think that we should.
Okay, if someone could make that motion for us, we'll go into a closed session.
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Kamic, would you take a roll call?
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilman Whitstone,
Yes.
Councilman Harmon, Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Norfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Ling.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. We'll give 5 minutes. And then whoever needs to stay, Mr. Flores can decide that. And then we'll,
Nicole, is there another link for closed session?
There is, yes, I will send that to both you and Don via email right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we will not carry on any other business after our closed session. So if we want to make a motion to adjourn now on this meeting.
Motion to adjourn, yeah.
Okay, all in favor,